part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cavs on the Break, NBA podcast right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. We are your hosts, John Sabol, alongside, that would be Sam Amico, owner and writer of Hoops Wire. And you can follow him at Amico Hoops on Twitter, NBA Insider, Cavs Insider, your lock and key to all NBA playoffs. And, of course, to this Cavs-Knicks Playoff Series. Sam, what's good, man? How you been?
Oh, I've been doing well. How about yourself, John?
I'm doing great. We are going to be riding, well, I would say solo, but that would be one person. So we'd be tandeming this pod tonight because Chase Smith and JIA are sitting this one out here for our first Cavs-Knicks playoff preview, game one here in 2 days as we record this year on April 13th on Thursday. Well, we're a little less than 24 hours here, Sam. A lot to get to with this pod on this game. And, man, it feels like the Cavs haven't played in like 5 years.
Yeah, it's funny. Season went fast. And now all of a sudden, like, yeah, we haven't seen him in. So it's been a little bit. But, once I start playing again, it'll seem like nothing.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute. Actually, I think it will be, 6 days once they tip Saturday, because the last game of the regular season against the Hornets would have been Sunday, which is the perfect amount of time to get healthy. And I guess let's just start right then and there. Before we do our predictions, let's talk about the health of both teams. Relatively healthy, except for the elephant in the room in the New York Knicks' best player, Julius Randle. He practiced for the first time on Tuesday in limited form after spraining an ankle back in late March. Status still uncertain. I mean, if I had to guess right now, 48 hours away, he's not playing, my opinion. Let's say you.
Well, I think the Cavs are expecting him to play, or they're preparing as if he's going to. That doesn't mean he will, but that's how they're kind of preparing. I know Thursday reports out of New York was, Tom Thibodeau said that Randle didn't really go through a full practice, but he has been running, and he has been putting up shots. So, theoretically, this being the playoffs, I will say this about Julius Randle: he's not a guy who misses much time. He played and started all 77 of their first 77 games. He didn't miss a game, and then he suffered the sprained ankle, missed the last 5. So I wouldn't be shocked if he tries to give it a go, especially if he's able to run right now. But they've been real cautious about putting him in, scrimmages where he could get the foot stepped on or twisted again. So, I think it's a 50-50 type thing. But knowing Julius Randle, he's going to want to play, and they'll probably rub some ice on it, tape it up real good, and see what he has.
Well, the question then is, if he does play, he's clearly not going to be 100%. You just want to know how effective he's going to be in his lateral movement in putting pressure on that ankle. I mean, you and I are both bums when it comes to playing basketball in our men's leagues and college intramurals and high school and all that good stuff. We've rolled an ankle and sprained an ankle a few times, and it takes, us a long time to heal. We're not Julius Randle or an NBA player, but when you have like a little injury like that, when you're just, scrubs like us, how it lingers, and you're getting top-notch care as a professional. But man, he's not, if he plays, Sam, he can't be 100%. What is he might be 70-80%. It just, you got to wonder, how effective will he be?
Yeah, it could end up costing him the whole series. Maybe if he sits out and waits till game 2, then maybe he gets a little better. I'm surprised to hear that you were a scrub.
Well, if anybody watched my challenge on Fox 8 on Wednesday, I didn't challenge it. One of our producers at the station set up a free throw contest live on our newscast, Sam. Yeah. And I haven't even talked to you about it, so I might as well talk about it now. A 11-year-old kid out of Lorraine High School, it's where we took it, where we had the contest. is the Ohio champion. He's the Great Lakes champion. He's going to Chicago at the end of April to challenge with 11 other kids to become the free throw champion in his age group. And they wanted me to challenge him in a free throw contest. So he went first. He had 8 out of 10. And I'm like, oh, man, this is going to be tough. So I go like 1 for 2, 1 for 3, 1 for 4, and instantly I'm done on live TV.
Boy.
It was miserable.
Yeah.
And I kept bricking up stuff. But yeah, it was fun. So I guess I'm a scrub now. I mean, I'd like to think I was a lot better, but he was awesome. But to answer your question, I think I probably am a scrub now. I don't know.
Well, there comes a time in every man's life where he realizes he's just a scrub.
Yeah, I guess it is. We're all not all you, Sam Amico, playing men's league hoops out in Medina, schooling people on the blacktop.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, obviously, going back to the series, Randle being an all-star power forward, that's a big difference if he's not there or he's not, uh, not completely healthy.
Okay, so let's go to the Cavaliers. Isaac Okoro. I mean, he hasn't practiced, or I should say, he hasn't played in a game. If you go back to March 26th, the last time he played, and he had a bone bruise. Still has a bone bruise in his I think his left knee. Is that correct? Left knee.
I think so. One of them.
One of the knees. He started to practice this week a little bit, and I mean, he's been practicing, but off to the side. Cavs have been kind of coy about it, leading up to the last few games of the regular season, just because they're not going to show their hands. But as it sits right now, more than likely he's going to play. I mean, if the Cavs were down the stretch in those last few games, Sam, you got to think, it wasn't serious enough for them to pull him out. Then, if they were like looking for and fighting for a playoff spot, they had a comfortable lead. I know JB Bickerstaff said in media availability today that he says, "quote We'll see how he's going to play," but I think he's going to be a go. I mean, I know you've kind of alluded to that too in some of your articles on Hoops Wire and in previous pods the last few times we've talked. But I would be surprised. Actually, I'll be shocked if Isaac Okoro is not playing on Saturday.
Yeah, put it this way. I'll be more surprised if he doesn't play than Randle. I think that if Okoro misses, then you might have a reason to worry about moving forward. But from all accounts, or by all accounts, it sounds like he's going to be able to go, which is good because then they keep the rotation intact. LeVert comes off the bench. You're going to need that firepower off the bench, or at least the threat that LeVert offers off the bench. And so I would suspect that, Okoro obviously offers energy. He's the fifth starter, so to speak, and is a guy who doesn't need the basketball. So I think that obviously he has his value. And certainly when you talk about him being able to defend multiple positions, probably take some time on Brunson, as well as Barrett and some of the other guys quickly, and those guys too. So it'd be nice to have him for sure if you're the Cavs.
When you look at this series, and we'll give our predictions later, but when you look at this, Sam, I mean, these are two teams that played each other 4 times during the regular season. The Knicks won the season series 3-1. I want to say one of those games the Cavs did not have Jared Allen, and I mean, the Knicks have been able to hang with the Cavs, obviously beat them, but also kind of that thorn in their side a little bit. I mean, they play them tough. It's a very balanced, scoring on both sides, even with Donovan Mitchell exploding for 30, 40 plus points. I mean, it's a 4-5 matchup, and those are always the best and most competitive. I mean, I talked to you and I were just talking off camera, off microphone here when I did a story for the news about with Craig Elo. He always would say it seems like every time he would watch a 4-5 series in the last 15, 20 years, we would always see, and he said the same thing. He would see probably 9 out of the 10 series seem like they went 6 or 7 games. You don't see really many sweeps in 4 and 5 matchups, and I agree with him.
Yeah, these series are obviously very evenly matched. They're 4-5 is the least amount of difference in terms of wins. So Yeah, it's hard to get a feel for those kind of series, and they do usually go 6, 7 games. You
Mhm.
know, there's very rare um, if it goes, 4 or 5 games. If there's a sweep or 5 games, it's usually because one team has totally imploded, at some point, or there's an injury or something. But when you look at these two teams, the Cavs and the Knicks, on paper, I would say that this 4 or 5 matchup's even tighter than the one in the Western Conference. Especially the Suns now they have Kevin Durant, and the Clippers aren't going to have Paul George. So I think that the Suns are pretty heavy favorites in that. This one just seems like I don't want to say it's a toss up. I do think the Cavs have the edge, but it's they're better than the Knicks. They're just not that much better than the Knicks this season.
Yeah, don't give me your prediction just yet.
I won't. As far as we
Not
know, I could pick either team.
You're gonna pick the New Jersey Deers, aren't you?
They got a great logo.
They do, yeah. One thing I gotta say though, when you look at these teams, there's a couple storylines here. We've kind of alluded to it on previous podcasts, and it's been kind of beaten to death. But the biggest one is Donovan Mitchell going to New York. He was going to the team that he wanted to go to, but didn't get traded there. Almost got traded there before the Cavs came at the last moment and gave an offer to the Jazz that they couldn't refuse. Going back home to play at the Garden, and then you've got the Garden. I mean, it's MSG. It's the mecca of basketball. All these players talk about it. These former players. I mean, you talk to former players. Everyone always talks about how this is the spot you want to play in, and when you're in the NBA, it seems like there's always two main spots. It's New York City at Madison Square Garden, or it's Staples Center in LA because it's LA, right? But man, I mean, you can't get any bigger stage than that. My worry is this: will that stage be too big for this young team? What do you think?
I mean that's the concern going into the series is Evan Mobley never been there. Darius Garland never been. Isaac Okoro never been. Jared Allen, Karis LeVert have been once. JB Bickerstaff has been once as an interim coach. Um, are you going to play Lamar Stevens and Dean Wade? Never been. I looked it up. Chetty has played 56 minutes in the playoffs, all during his rookie season, 2017-18. So, games are 48 minutes. He's played 56 total playoff minutes. So
Wow.
slightly more than one game. Some of that was garbage time. Um, so there just isn't a whole lot of experience there
Yeah.
outside of Mitchell. Obviously, you have Rubio, Danny Green. You don't know what you're going to get from those guys, how much are they going to be a regular part of the rotation? I would imagine if they produce, they will be. So, but overall, yeah, huge lack of experience in the playoffs, which is really a different game. I mean, Tom Thibodeau, uh, his teams play a very physical brand of basketball, especially in the playoffs. And I remember when he was with the Bulls, he used to just, guys, you should foul. And he would dare the refs to call it. And if they did call it, he was okay with that because now you're slowing down the game to a grinded out pace. You frustrated the other team. I wouldn't be surprised if he implements that again. So,
Hmm.
yeah, the youth is a it's a curiosity heading in. Sometimes youth can step up in these situations. That's so it works both ways. I mean, anybody who remembers the 1989 playoffs with the Cavs playing the Michael Jordan Bulls, Scottie Pippen really came to prominence in that series as a young player, especially in
Yeah.
Game 5. I'm like, this guy isn't. Who is this? He's not missing. So and that really kind of launched his career. So I think that you look at these kind of series as, yeah, the youth can be a bad thing, but it can also launch guys into kind of superstardom as well.
Well, when you look at it, you mentioned the that experience. You take Donovan Mitchell and Ricky Rubio out of the equation. By my count, the only players that have best of seven experience on this current Cavaliers roster: Danny Green. Let's put Danny Green out because he's obvious. Danny Green, Donovan Mitchell, Ricky Rubio out. That leaves Chetty, who you just mentioned. And then there's two other guys on the roster. Now I'm cheating because I have the roster up. Now I don't have actually their playoff series because I've read this before, but I have the names here. Do you want to guess the other two?
Robin Lopez and Raul Neto.
Well, you got Robin Lopez,
Okay.
Raul Neto. That I'll be honest, I completely forgot about him. If he is one of them, that's not the one I was thinking.
Okay.
And
So there's another guy that has.
yeah, he did. You know what? He does. You're right. I forgot him. Okay, so there's
Well, I think he was probably on one of those teams with Mitchell
yeah, he was.
um,
Yep, and
in
he,
Utah.
he he was. There's one more. Good catch, by the way.
One more. Hmm.
Yeah, it's one that we all forget about, and it's the little minuscule experience too.
Boy, yeah, I'm stumped.
Only 9 games, only 9 postseason games. This player on the Cavaliers has played in
Harris
back to
LeVert?
back. Did I miss another one? Dang, I did.
I don't know. I don't
Well,
know.
I was gonna say Jared Allen, but yeah,
Okay. Well, I think LeVert was on that team with Allen in Brooklyn.
they both were. That's why I
Yeah.
forgot. Yeah, and
Yeah.
they both played 9 games in the
Yeah.
18, 19, 19, 20.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
so it's still relatively inexperienced with the core when you have Garland and you've got Okoro with if he plays, which he probably will, and Mobley, but you do have some supporting cast there that can
Yeah.
kind of help you out a little bit.
Yeah. You would think, I mean, just frankly, just having Mitchell having been in these situations,
Mhm.
it helps that when your best player, when your biggest threat has been in these situations, it's not like just a guy who's coming off the bench. It's your leader, really.
Yeah.
And I think that bodes very well for the Cavs.
I think the fact that they played 4 games in New York City, back to my point, that they uh during the season, I don't think the whole MSG thing is going to get to them as much as maybe people think about it.
Yeah, I
The
wouldn't
aura is
worry about it.
there. The aura is
Yeah,
there, but
yeah,
they played the next 4 times, 2 different times there. I think
yeah,
you may have some depends how what games 1 and 2 go, Sam. Game 3 in New York could be a disaster or it could be successful. That's why it's important to obviously start out hot.
game 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 one is always huge. It's
Mhm.
always huge in every series. That's not to say if you lose that you're done. I mean, I've seen teams lose game one and come back and win four straight. So once they get it figured out, but I'm sure that they rattle off those stats that I think it's like 77% of the teams that win game one go on to win the series. So
Right.
you know now that's neither here nor there, but it's game one is a place where you set the tone,
Yeah.
and you don't. If I'm the Cavs, I don't want to go back to New York, 1-1. You just don't. You want to take care of business at home, and hopefully, because then you really put a lot of pressure on yourself. You lost home court advantage and a young team. You just don't want to do that. So game one is Saturday's game is obviously huge. I mean, yeah, if you lose game one, then game two becomes really huge. But a lot of weird things have happened in the playoffs. I remember Charles Barkley Suns went down to the Lakers at home, lost the first 2 games in Phoenix. And that was the year they went to the finals. Then they came
Wow.
back and won two in LA and retook command of the series.
Yeah.
So a lot of weird things can happen in the NBA playoffs.
You never know. It's funny when you think of all 4 major sports, and I don't know how much you follow hockey. I don't follow NHL anymore because I covered the Tampa Bay Lightning
Yeah.
for a while when I lived in Tampa for almost 9 years. So I had to follow the Lightning and follow hockey. But being from Cleveland, most fans here don't follow hockey. But out of all 4, the NHL has the most upsets in the postseason because
Yes.
NHL hockey in the playoffs is completely different than the regular season. NBA playoffs is completely different too, but you still don't see the upsets in the NBA. I would probably say NHL's definitely got the most. I don't know. NFL's got the least, it seems like, or baseball's probably got the least, and then NFL,
Yeah.
and then NBA maybe. So NHL's the most upsets, maybe the
Yeah.
NBA, then NFL, then
I think,
baseball.
yeah, I think with the NBA, it's so easy to predict because there's so many teams that get in. Well, I guess there is in the NHL too, but
Yeah.
when it comes to so many teams getting in the playoffs, but there's such a large difference between 1 and 8 most of the time,
Yeah.
in terms of talent and everything. 4 and 5 is not a huge that nobody considers 5 beating 4 a huge upset either, though.
No, I agree,
You know,
100%.
but 2-7, 1-8, 3-6, those are all a big deal. And I think part of that is with the NBA, you really only need one guy. It goes back to Chase Smith's line. If you have the best player on the floor, you're probably your odds of winning are going to be really good. And in the Eastern Conference, you look at the teams that are at the top. Well, they generally have the best player on the floor, most nights. So, and that's just because there's so few guys on the team. There's 5 guys out there at a time. If you have one really great one, your odds are pretty good.
Well, when you think about it, like the seeds and how the NBA goes with 1 through 8, how many times have we seen? I know the answer to this question. I think you do too, but we'll pose it for our listeners. How many times have we seen an 8 seed upset a 1 seed?
You not want me to answer?
Oh, I want you to. Yeah, yeah. I know
Okay.
you know the answer. That's why I'm asking. Yeah,
I
yeah. Go
think.
ahead.
I think. I don't know for sure. I know of 2 off the top of my head. Would be Seattle Sonics with Sean Kemp,
Right.
Gary Payton beating who did they lost to who?
The
Denver.
nut the
Denver with
Nuggets.
Dikembe Mutombo.
Yeah,
You can't
94.
you can't ever forget that uh video of Dikembe lying on the floor holding the basketball, basically crying. I think
Yeah.
that was the first one, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
It was the first 8 to beat a 1, and then the
Yeah.
next one was the Baron Davis led Golden State Warriors upset Dirk Nowitzki's Dallas Mavericks,
Oh
right?
seven. Oh
Oh
seven. Yeah.
seven. Yeah.
That's when the Warriors were likable in the league. That's when
Yeah, they had
everyone liked
Baron
them because they
Davis,
came out of
Jason.
nowhere.
Yeah, Baron Davis, Jason Richardson. I
Monte
don't was
Ellis.
Monte Ellis. Was Antoine Jameson on that team? Or he moved on by then. I think he was in Washington
I
by
think
then.
he was at the yeah, no, he was with the Wizards because LeBron played them in the playoffs,
That's
remember?
right. Yes. So that was 2007. And Don Nelson had coached the Mavericks and had a falling out with Mark Cuban and went and coached the Warriors and then beat the Mavericks in an 8-1 series. So yeah,
That's I
it
forgot
happens.
about that
It happens.
that
Yeah.
coaching line.
Yeah. Avery Johnson was the coach of the Mavs.
Now, I wasn't there another one. Those are the 2 that I remember, but was there one at the lockout shortened season in 99? The Knicks
Did,
was
did,
that
did the
one?
Knicks go to the finals as an 8 seed maybe that year?
Yeah, the 99. Didn't they beat the Heat that year? I think
I
they
think
did.
so. They went to the finals,
Yeah, they did. Yep. Yep. That was
and
a big
because I
one.
remember they were playing the Hawks in the Eastern Conference Finals, and the Hawks it was a 4 seed versus an 8 seed,
Yep.
and the Knicks ended up beating them, and then of course lost to the Spurs.
Now, wasn't there another one with like the Grizzlies and Spurs too? Back in like, oh, was it 2010, 2011, I believe?
I thought that was a 2-7, but I could be wrong.
Hmm.
Not positive. So, but yeah, there's been enough. I'm sure if you looked at, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say like those are 4 right there that have
Yeah,
happened in modern NBA, and I mean modern NBA in the last 30, 35 years. So upsets do happen. That's a big upset. But back to your point, Sam, 4-5 matchups, that's not considered an upset because those are the most balanced teams, you know?
yeah, right. Those
I
teams
do
are close.
I do want to go back to your Tom Thibodeau point. And this is something I think that probably isn't talked about enough with the casual fan about him and his style and how he was with those Bulls teams. And it's funny because the Cavs and LeBron, when LeBron came back, or excuse me, when LeBron left and then came back, they faced Thibodeau twice, right? When he was
Yeah,
with in 09, 10, and then 14. And he was he still is old school gritty coach. I'd like to think though, I mean, those Bulls teams better than the Knicks teams now, just because of the personnel and the talent. But I think those Bulls teams probably were a little bit more tougher, a little more grittier than the Knicks now. But I mean, this guy is an old school coach. He has the playoff experience. I mean, in his entire career, he's coached in 61 playoff games compared to JB Bickerstaff's 5 when he was the interim head coach. Was it down in Houston? So the edge goes to Thibodeau. My concern before we do our predictions is if the Cavs do they don't have a set offense, right? They do a lot of these pick and rolls, and then, Donovan or Darius or LeVert chucks up the ball. 8 out of 10 times it seems like it goes in, or it seems like it would be, even though that'd be a high percentage. It seems like they're more successful doing that way, right? But if Thibodeau starts scheming a defense to shut down that pick and roll, and you force the Cavs to continue to shoot, they have no interior presence really, or interior moves. I mean, you still have Mobley and Allen. You're going to force the Cavs on the perimeter. That's not good for Allen. Yeah, shaky on Mobley. He hasn't developed that mid-range shot yet. I mean, if that happens, I'm throwing a scenario at you. How do you think the Cavs respond?
Well, I think if they do that, you're going to have a lot of Mitchell trying to break down his defenders. The good news is, should the Knicks try to do that and keep the Cavs on the perimeter, um, you're going to, in order to do that, you're going to have to probably play Mitchell one-on-one and defend him that way. And that's, you know, probably not a great sign. Chicago did that when he had the 71-point night. So I think that there's ways to counter it because you have a elite level star in Mitchell, and you've got to, if you're Darius Garland, you've got to be able to hit from the outside, which he's been able to do, and that's where Okoro comes in, kind of those corner threes, if he can knock those down. So that'd be a problem. And Thibodeau's going to be, look, they're definitely going to blitz Garland at the top, and assume he can be a little bit loose with the basketball. They're gonna go right after him right away. But then you run the risk of leaving Mitchell open. You run the risk of getting the Cavs getting easy baskets underneath. So it's just a matter of if the Cavs play like they've played during the regular season, they'll be fine. But
Yeah, yeah.
if there's they get frustrated with the physical play or the grinded out style, then it could be a problem.
And hopefully we don't have a big problem because we want to see them adjust. And I think the biggest thing too for me, Sam, is sometimes when the Cavs do encounter some type of adversity, they're late to make adjustments. And I don't know if that's on JB or the players. Sometimes the in-game adjustments aren't there at a consistent clip. I don't know if they rely too much on Mitchell or Garland, maybe because it seems like they don't have a set offense or something. I don't know what it is, but they get in these ruts sometimes. They go on these runs. I know basketball's a game of runs, blah, 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 but it seems like too often, too many times that happens in a way where that can hurt them. And I hope they don't get in a situation or a big hole or a problem where they're in a rut and New York goes on a run and they can't recover. The positive is they know what these two teams know each other, really well, playing each other 4 times. They know their tendencies. So I think that would be kind of what won't really come as a surprise to them. And you would think that they'd be able to kind of persevere.
Yeah, I mean, if the Cavs, here's the thing, they've been near the top or at the top defensively all season. They
Yep.
did when they lost the Knicks at home on March 31st. They didn't have Okoro, they didn't have Allen, um, and they didn't defend very well. But if they can play the type of defense that they've played in the regular season in the playoffs, they're going to be pretty good because it won't matter so much what the Knicks are doing to them. They will cause problems for the Knicks at the offensive end. So I just think that's a big key that, look, this is a team that has defended well as individuals. They have 2 excellent rim protectors. If you remember, John, during the LeBron era for so long, it's like the Cavs need a rim protector. They need a guy to
Yeah.
protect the basket. Well, now they've got 2 of them who are outstanding at it, and that really helps. Those guys anchor everything, Mobley and Allen, and I think if those guys continue to do that, the Cavs are going to be in good shape. They won't have to be so concerned offensively. They can win the games with their defense, and you know, that's a matter of just carrying over what they did for the majority of the regular season into the postseason.
It's so funny. You're so right, Sam. They needed that rim protector that back then, and then
Yeah.
And then when you think about it now, and the Cavs are loaded with wing players in that last 4 years of LeBron's time, now the Cavs need wings.
Yeah, if they had only had a young Jared Allen back then, or a prime Jared Allen when they had LeBron, that would be. I mean, it's hard to complain. They went to 4 straight finals, but I
Sure.
think they probably would have won another one.
Yep. All right. Well, let's do this. Let's take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to go through our predictions. Sam and I will tell us what we think is going to happen in Game 1 and the entire series. We'll break down the schedule. Also, Sam, I want to throw at you some what we call experts, other fellow writers for you, your other colleagues in the league, what they have to think about it. I got a list right here. I wanted to get your reaction on that as well. So keep it right here. More Cavs on the Break NBA podcast right here on the Press Play Podcast Network coming up right after this.
The R&R podcast going to be rocking and rolling with you because football season is underway. College, Ohio State, the Power Fives, the MAC, the Browns. Michael Regai, are you ready to rock and roll with some football?
Kenny, I've been ready. This is our time of year. This is what R&R is all about. We're going to be with you every week. Kenny just said it. Browns, NFL, Ohio State centric. So you got to stay with us all fall and winter long here on R&R.
That's right. The Regai and Rhoda podcast coming to you here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Subscribe now and don't miss a show.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sabol.
And I'm Scott Sabol, and we're hosts of the Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
What's up, everyone? Chase Smith here, host of the Chase Smith Podcast, and my podcast reflects who I am. My hobbies, my interests, my passions, my curiosities, my careers, my questions, and my family. I'll spend time talking about all types of sports, movies, TV shows, trending news stories, and other cultural events, and even faith. This is who I am, and I hope I can get to know you as well. Join me on the Chase Smith Podcast, and let's have some thought-provoking conversations, only on the Press Play Podcast Network.
All right, welcome back, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Thank you for sticking with us here. John Sabol, along with Sam Amico. Follow us at the pod at Cavs on the Break on Twitter. Follow yours truly at John _ Sabol. And you can follow Sam Amico at Amico Hoops. You can read all NBA, all Cavs, all everything on hoopswire.com. A lot of playoff stuff on there for you, as well as the Cavs. And I don't know, Sam, does Hoopswire give out predictions on playoff series?
Yes.
Have you given your prediction? Have you given your prediction yet?
On the Cavs?
Yeah.
Yes.
You have.
Don't
Okay. So
ask me what it is.
I remember back in the day on the old website, you would do predictions, but I don't know. I couldn't remember if you did it again on this one.
I don't know if I did it last year or not, but this year I fully intend to tomorrow actually. So yeah, but
So
I already did post the Cavs Knicks, which I'll be putting out, on social media and stuff in the morning.
Okay, so to be clear, your prediction for this series and Game 1 is already on Hoopswire?
It's on the site. Yeah.
Okay.
It is. At the very top, I wrote a column and left my prediction at the bottom.
And that title is called "When It Comes to Cavs-Knicks, There's No Easy Pick."
I almost made that rhyme. Knicks.
You did, but when you say it in the tone that I did, it kind of sounds like it could rhyme, right?
All right. Yeah, that's right.
So, without going in detail here, because I want listeners to go on Hoopswire and read this, because I I forgive me. I did not realize you put this out here already. I thought you usually put it out 24 hours, not in advance, not 48 hours.
Well, I'll promote it for the next 48.
There you go. A lot of good stuff on here too, as I'm looking here on Hoops Wire. Okay, let's go here because we've talked about the injuries. We've talked about the coaching a little bit. We've talked about, the aura of play at Madison Square Garden, the regular season series. Let's get right down to it. Before we give our predictions, I'm going to tease it a little bit longer here. On ESPN.com, some of your former colleagues and friends have put their predictions on every single NBA series. The Knicks-Cavs series, out of the 17 writers on here, 13 of them have picked the Cavs, 4 have picked the Knicks to win. All of them have picked this series to go 6 or 7. No one went 4, no one went 5. So we've got, like a Tim Legler and Bobby Marks and Dave McMenamin. Those guys, coincidentally, those 3 all picked the Cavs. Some in 6, some in 7, and we won't need to go through all of them. But I think in all of you talking to, your NBA circles on your end, Sam, it seems like there's a consensus. This is going to go long.
Yeah, for sure. I think that most people feel like we do. 4 or 5 series tend to, because the teams are so evenly matched, tend to go long. But yeah, I had one guy writer, and I can't remember who it was. I was talking to like 6 of them at the time. But one of them said that he thought the Cavs would lose game 1 and then win 4 straight. So, I mean,
Okay.
that was just for fun. But really, at this point, you could throw anything out there, and nobody really, will remember. They only remember who you picked to win the entire series. So, who are the 4 on ESPN who picked the Knicks out of the 17?
Glad you asked. I'll go through
We'll
them
go
right now.
looking for them.
I've got them right here. So Ramona Shelburne picked the Knicks in 6.
Right.
George Sedano picked the Knicks in 7.
Okay.
Nick Friedel picked the Knicks in 7.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jeremy Membry, Knicks in 7. I'll be honest, never heard of that guy in my life.
I haven't heard of Jeremy Membry either, but that's
Jerry,
okay.
excuse me. It's Jerry Membry. My bad.
It's okay. He's probably never heard of me either.
Yeah,
but
he hasn't heard me either. It's fine.
Yeah, no, I know Ramona, and I mean, everybody has a right to their pick,
Absolutely. And you know what?
She-
They're picks. They're fun. You don't have to be
Yeah.
right or wrong. It's all good.
Right.
It's listen, like I've made a lot of predictions in my career in sports, and a lot of them have been wrong. It's
I don't believe that. Well, what I was going to say is I know Ramona a little bit, and the fact that she picked the Knicks, now I'm mad at her. So we'll pass that along.
Well, you should go ahead and call her right now and tell her
Right?
that.
Yeah.
How dare
could you do this? Yeah.
Sure. Well, Vegas likes the Cavs in this series, and they like them in game 1. Cleveland currently a 5.5-point favorite to pull out game 1. They are the favorite to win the series. So if you're a betting person, bet wisely. Good luck. Now, Vegas has been wrong on other times. Hopefully, Sam and I are not wrong with our predictions. Sam, I'm going to have you do the honors first and give me your prediction. This is what I want out of you. I want the team who's going to win. I want the total games. I want you to give me the X factor. MVP is too easy, so I'm not going to give you like an MVP of it. But how about we do the X factor and a surprising performer or something that's something that could happen that you're not expecting, and then I'll go.
Okay. So I think the Cavs will win. I think it's going to be a close, hard-fought, back-and-forth series. I have the Cavs winning in 7 games. Part of me thinks they could win sooner if the Knicks self-implode, which they're really kind of capable of doing. But I'm going to say that they won't. The Cavs will still beat them in 7. I just don't. I see some. You said a couple of people picked the Knicks in 7. I don't think that the Knicks could win a game 7 in Cleveland.
I I would agree. I would agree with that.
They might be able to win game 1. They might be able to win a game 2 or something, but I just don't think they're going to win a game 7. So those are my picks. As far as like a guy that you really don't see playing a major role because he's not a great. I mean, he's a good offensive player. He's not great, but I think Jared Allen could really play a big role and kind of be that unsung guy because we always, as Cavs people who cover the Cavs or their fans, you always focus on 3 guys, which is Mitchell and Garland and Mobley, and then you throw in Allen at the end. But I think Allen you look at the individual matchups, he's a much better player than Mitchell Robinson. And more than that, I think that Allen is going to be a huge factor when it comes to containing Jalen Brunson at the rim and the other guards at the rim, as well as helping Mobley quite a bit with Julius Randle. And you know what? We might even see Allen matched up with Randle and Mobley playing Mitchell Robinson. That could kind of, they might alternate that a little bit depending on how the series goes. But I know Jared Allen was a year removed from the All-Star game, so to call him kind of the X factor, the surprise, sounds funny, but really, when you think about it, if he just continues to do what he's doing defensively, that's how I think the Cavs are going to win this series. I think they're going to win it with their defense, and really, we saw a difference when Jared Allen didn't play during the regular season. What a difference it made on their defense. So. That's where I stand. Cavs in 7, Jared Allen, the X factor.
Well, I'd like to know if you're creeping at my house because you stole my notes and Jared Allen was my pick. Thank you very much.
Really? Gosh, it just shows you demented minds think alike.
You know what's funny? Chase would tell us, man, you and Sam agree too much about things. I'm like, well, Sam and I just have eye to eye on a lot of things. I'm like, we get stuff,
The funny thing is we disagree with Chase on everything. So
We do. Oh man. And you know what? He's not here to defend himself either.
No.
But
he'll listen.
He'll listen and then text us and be like, guys, come on. Like my takes are good. So I'll pick somebody else then. But I'll say this: Cavs in 6. And if it does go to a 7, I don't think there's a way New York will win in 7. The Julius Randle factor of not if he plays game 1, I think he'll, like I said before, I think he'll be a surprise. If he does play, he won't be as effective. I don't think he will be. But the fact that injury is lingering, and if he doesn't play game 1, obviously is a major plus for the Cavs. And I think if he was 100% healthy, this series, I think it's more intriguing. The fact that he's not is huge, obviously. You mentioned the Jared Allen guarding Randle, and I find that fascinating because, Jared Allen's, 6'9", Julius Randle's 6'8". That happened a few times during the regular season in those matchups. There were times where Allen switched off on Randle in the paint or on the baseline, or they guarded each other a few different times. And I could see that definitely happening. I will say this, since you took Jared Allen as the X factor, and they could be, doesn't have to be an unknown player or anything like that. I think Evan Mobley. And this is, again, a big name guy, right? I'm going to give you 2. I'm going to say Evan Mobley for the Cavs, for a young guy who's coming in there. I don't think he's going to be shy in the spotlight there. I know at times this year, especially in the first half, and we kind of talked about it, Sam, in our last podcast with Chase, about how he had a slow sophomore season of this year, and then he really has come on the last 2 months. He's really had some momentum and big confidence, and his game seems like expanding. I talked to Daniel Gibson, and then a podcast that my brother and I just released here on the Press Play Podcast Network on our pod, Sabol Brothers and the Baseline. And he is raving about this kid's play lately. I mean, he sees him in practice. He sees his ceiling just as we think he is. He thinks he is going to be a major superstar, the biggest superstar since LeBron James, which is a big task, right? I'm not saying that he's there now, but this Evan Mobley is going to be, I think, and we think, and Booby thinks, a big deal. And I think we're starting to see it now. And I think he's going to shine bright in this postseason, at least in this first series against the Knicks. The Cavs have the size. They match up tremendously in the interior with Allen and with Mobley. And, you know, even though even you have a guy like Julius Randle or you have Mitchell Robinson and even, you know, they're just not the same interior people or guys that other teams have. You know, they even have who's the other one? Isaiah Hartenstein, who doesn't play much.
Hartenstein, yeah.
Hartenstein, excuse me.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets minutes, and he's a former Cavalier. I mean, but he's 7 foot tall, and he's just not that force in there. I think the Cavs interior, if they struggle, or if Thibodeau takes away the pick and roll, and they shoot, or if the Cavs penetrate, do something offensively, I don't think New York's going to be able to consistently in a best of 7 series stop Mobley and Allen on the interior. I just don't think they're going to be able to do it, especially with hurting Julius Randle. For that reason, I got Mobley as my X factor, and the other guy I think that could potentially have a nice series could be Karis LeVert.
Yeah, he was who I was thinking too, especially because they're gonna really need the Cavs really need some productivity off the Knicks. I think they bring Josh Hart off the bench, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Knicks do. So I mean, you're gonna have to have somebody who counters that, and potentially LeVert could be a big player if the Knicks. Obviously, Josh Hart is the ultimate X factor in every series he plays in or every team he plays for. So you're going to need somebody to counter that. That your best chance of countering that is going to be Karis LeVert. By the way, Basketball Reference lists Jared Allen at 6'9", and ESPN lists him at 6'11", which leads me to believe one thing: ESPN measured him with the fro.
Well, it's funny because I'm on ESPN right now and they have him measured at 6'9". Where are you seeing that he's measured at 6'11"?
Basketball Reference, I'm sorry, has him at 6'11".
Oh, okay. I got you. Okay.
So
they measured the fro. That's funny.
Measured him with ESPN measured him when he had his haircut, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, what do the Cavs list him as? That's going to be interesting. Let's look at that up real quick here. Because
that is interesting.
Here it is. I got it right here. The Cavs have him listed at 6'9".
Okay. Well, then maybe Basketball Reference is wrong. He looks like almost a 7-footer to me. But again, you've got the hair, which I'm all for.
Sure.
Maybe
it looks good. It looks good.
He plays like a 7-footer, so really it doesn't matter. He's got long arms and great length. Evan Mobley, to me, plays smaller, and I mean that as a compliment, in that he looks, a lot of 7-footers are kind of gangly and he looks very comfortable the way he plays and doesn't seem the least bit deterred by, with his ball handling and passing and stuff, by the fact that he's a big man and is supposed to be, a lot of big men are one-dimensional, and he's obviously not that at all, which is why, you and I have such high expectations of him, as does Boobie Gibson, as does a lot of other people across the league.
Yeah, he had a lot of good things to say about this team. It's funny because people forget he's an assistant coach with the Cleveland Charge now this past year.
Right.
And he's got a big, hands-on a little bit on this team. And, here's something interesting too. Craig Elo, who works for the Washington State University, he's the radio analyst for the men's basketball team. So he got to cover Evan Mobley and his brother Isaiah Mobley when USC played Washington State. And he raves obviously about Evan Mobley, but he told me, Sam, that Isaiah Mobley, if he gets more, development, his development was a little slower than Evans, obviously. But he said, don't sleep on this kid. This kid's going to be a force and will be a role player in the NBA.
Yeah. Well, he's a very skilled. Isaiah Mobley's both of them very fundamentally sound, and Isaiah's that way. And he's got good size. He reminds me, of a poor man kind of Kyle Anderson, from the Jazz, or the Timberwolves, sorry. And who can forget Kyle Anderson just getting punched in the chest by Rudy Gobert? But
I forgot about that.
I think
Yeah.
Mobley's got that kind of game, kind of a slower
Sure.
guy, but very skilled and very intelligent player. So, yeah, you never know. You never know with those guys if he gets more of an opportunity, what he could become.
You never know. And, one other thing, too, here on the New York side here, the one thing I think maybe we haven't talked at all about is the guard play. I mean, I think Jalen Brunson is coming into his own. And he is a kid that ever since he left Dallas last year and signed with the Knicks, I mean, his numbers have just jumped this past season. I mean, he went from averaging 16 points a game to 24 a game and has been a real big he just blew up this year with New York. I did not see that coming. But I think his style of play fits them. And that's going to be a good matchup to see a Brunson and Darius Garland go at each other.
Yeah, no, I mean, Brunson's the real deal this year. Really has been. He was good last year, but yeah, really, really improved. And we saw what happened with Dallas without him, So just the kind of guy that Thibodeau loves, that kind of point guard, can do it all, plays every possession, never takes possessions off, and he's going to be a problem for the Cavs. He really is. He's a fantastic player and is a team player and is a winner, So I remember his dad, Rick, when he was in the NBA, was always like the 12th man, but he lasted in the league like 10 years, it seemed like. And I always wondered, I'm like, why do teams keep signing Rick Brunson to not play him ever? And but Jalen obviously has benefited from that. Now, Rick, of course, an assistant coach with the Knicks, but Jalen certainly benefited from having his dad in the NBA because he's quite an NBA player.
Mitchell and Brunson are the two highest scoring players on these teams. I expect both of them to have big games. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell back home in New York will be big. I like to see Garland matched up with Brunson. And here's a question that I've got for you here before we wrap things up here. Are we going to see Danny Green play in this series?
I have a feeling we will. There were some things that weren't right with him physically. I think, shortly after he arrived in Cleveland, obviously he missed the first part of the year with a knee issue after, an ACL issue. And I don't know if that was what the problem was, but he wasn't right physically for a while there. And then we saw what he could do, against in these meaningless games against the Magic and Hornets. I personally would not be surprised to see him playing anywhere from 8 to 12 to 15 minutes a game in the playoffs, just because here's a guy who's been there before. He's a pretty decent defender still, and he can knock down 3-point shots. And that goes back to your point about, the Knicks taking away some of the things the Cavs do, putting in a guy like Danny Green to knock down shots, a veteran player who's been in these situations. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see him get some minutes right off the bat in game one.
I mean, that's why you got him. I mean, you signed him after or I should say, the Cavs signed him before Kevin Love. That's right. That's why. But you brought him in here for a reason. Once the NBA had some of those guys that got buyouts. Both teams phenomenal defensively. I think the Cavs are obviously a better defensive team. I think not by much, but that'll be key. We'll see what they can do. You got Cavs in 7. I got Cavs in 6. Real quick here, the playoff schedule did end up coming out yesterday. I don't think the schedule really impacts much on our predictions here. Obviously, game 1 Saturday in Cleveland, game 2 Tuesday, and then they've got a few days off. Game 3 will be in New York Friday evening. Game 4 Sunday afternoon. That coveted Sunday 1:00 game. I remember growing up watching the Cavs in the late 80s, early 90s, Sam. It always seemed like everything, your perception when you're younger is different, right?
Yeah.
But I always felt like seeing the Cavs in the playoffs at 1:00 in the afternoon on a weekend, it always seemed like it happened,
Yeah. Well, even during the LeBron era when they were playing the Wizards.
Sure. Pistons.
Early in the LeBron era. Yeah, they were playing a lot of those 1:00 games. So
those are fun games, though. I just, they're
it either
fun.
makes your Sunday or ruins it, like the Browns.
Yeah, well, as Cleveland fans can attest, they're used to that. So,
Yeah.
but no, that'll be a fun one. And then, of course, if the series goes 5, which we think it will be April 26th, Wednesday. The 26th would be game 5 in Cleveland. Game 6, if it goes that far, Friday the 28th at New York, and game 7, if Sam's correct, it will be back in Cleveland on Sunday, April 30th. Of course, those last 3 games, time to be determined, as we'll figure that out once the series gets split at 1 apiece or more. All right, Sam, you got Cavs in 7. I got Cavs in 6. We'll see what happens. We will be doing a post Game 1 Cavs-Knicks podcast right after the game on Saturday. We'll drop it right after the game once we kind of digest what we just saw. And we'll go from there. So keep it here. If you haven't already, smash that subscribe button. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, do so. If we think this Cavs team will go far in the playoffs, which we do, we're going to be here the whole step of the way. We'll be your sources for that. Remember, keep your browser and phone locked to hoopswire.com. That's where Sam Amico, owner and writer, operator, will be dropping the latest NBA buzz and playoff coverage, for that matter, as well as the Cavs and Knicks. Isn't that right, Samuel?
Oh yeah, we'll have plenty there. Not planning on sleeping much until after free agency in July, but that's okay. It's a job I wanted and still love it to this day. So we should have plenty of stuff there, and like you said, obviously right here on Cavs on the Break.
You got it. This is the time of the year that Sam's wife cannot stand him because he doesn't get any sleep.
That might last all year, but we won't get into that.
That's a pod for a different day. All right. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Remember, follow Sam at Amico Hoops on Twitter. Follow the pod at Cavs on the Break. Follow yours truly, John_Sabol, all on Twitter. We'll see you guys next time right here on the Cavs on the Break NBA podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. Our man Chase Smith not here, but you know what? I will do it, Sam. I will do it. Here it comes. Mike Breen, take us out.
Congratulations, Cleveland. Your decades-long wait is finally over. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.